Hello, and welcome to a very special edition of the Supersons podcast, where we discuss the iconic characters and stories from DC Comics. This week, I'm your host, Dr. LondonSmith.com, coming to you all the way from the Jock Doc Podcast. I would like to begin by apologizing to the listeners of the Supersons podcast. The usual hosts have made it clear to me that I need to cut back on the use of complicated medical terms such as genome and Marvel Comics, so I'll try to utilize more common terminology going forward. Here to help with that is our producer Cameron.
Hello friends, old and new.
Cameron is so committed to making us relatable that when he heard about the Flashpoint Paradox, he began a search through every local pound in an attempt to find this pair of dogs, which he claimed could point a flashlight in the direction of hidden treasure.
It's true.
The Flashpoint Paradox, I think he got confused with that word there, paradox. So Cameron...
Yeah, parachuting dogs.
Oh, so I thought it was a pair of... So it's...
Yeah, it's a pair of parachuting dogs. Haven't you seen Up?
Yeah. Oh, well, there was one dog. But yeah, okay. So something about a lot of balloons.
Yeah, but there's like those dogs in planes flying around shooting things. How do you think they got out of those planes?
Okay. With a pair of dogs. Shoot. Okay.
And then think of the implications of that.
If that technology were to advance further.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I should clarify for the listeners, since this is a DC Comics podcast, that the Flashpoint Paradox, specifically the Flashpoint Paradox, it's not the name of a pair of dogs, but rather the name given to the story of when the character The Flash, who is known for being very fast, he causes a temporal ripple that creates a fractured reality in which the Justice League has never existed. Anyway, so also with us is DJ Don the House. DJ Don the House. DJ Don the House. Ooh, yeah. And now for today's topic, the first episode of the show Black Lightning.
That's right, Dr. London.
And so from what I understand, I was asked to explain this episode because the Jock Doc Podcast is all about explaining complex medical topics in a way that anyone can understand. And despite my fair complexion, maybe there was some assumption that navigating the heavy racial overtones that are present throughout the show would sort of be in my wheelhouse. So I guess we'll find out. So, Black Lightning. And Cameron, you watched this, right?
I did.
Okay, good. So you know that Black Lightning has important characters such as Jefferson Pierce, the Lightning himself. Also important are his two daughters.
Daughter one and daughter
Anissa.
two.
Yeah, okay. Anissa, she's a medical student. So she begins the episode by being arrested for protesting.
Mm-hmm.
She also has a sister, Jennifer, who's in high school.
And there was a third sister mentioned.
Oh, was there?
Yep. Who was an impressive athlete like her father.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So maybe that you saw it and forgot about it. Maybe that's kind of a theme of the show. Isn't it, Dr. London?
Well, I guess for me, the ones that had the more, involvement in the plot, those are sort of the ones I paid attention to the most.
Yeah.
For the first episode, at least. So anyway, on the way home from picking up his daughter, Anissa, from jail, the Black Lightning character, who's not being Black Lightning, his Jeff, he's pulled over for a crime he didn't commit.
And they don't mention this in the show, but it is implied that it is DJ Jazzy Jeff, right? From Fresh Prince? It'd have to be.
Well, why would it have to be?
Because the thing about DJ Jazzy Jeff was that he had electricity flowing through his body all the time.
Okay.
Dancing about and bringing like a fun energy, He's kind of a rascal.
Yeah. Okay.
And so here I see this guy, he's got energy going through him. His name is Jeff. I mean...
He doesn't seem like sort of the fun, jazzy type of character, though. He seems a little bit more somber.
Well, yeah, but this is, 30 years later.
Right. Okay. Well, we should clarify that at this point, the titular character of the show, Black Lightning, he has not been publicly active as a superhero for 9 years.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's a big thing here. But anyway,
just so like you have been operating without a license for at least 9 years, right?
Well, anyway, so when he gets pulled over, the lights on his car flicker very suspiciously. His car and the cop car. Later, we see Jeff, a.k.a. Black Lightning, attending a fundraiser for his school, where he's a principal, where his ex-wife, Lynn, who had divorced him because of his whole superhero thing, she flirts with him.
Ooh.
So that's interesting, yeah.
But I do want to say, boo school. That was
okay.
I got to be honest, Dr. Lennon. I spent the first 41 minutes of this episode thinking he was the villain because of how much he was promoting school.
Okay,
I hate homework. I hate schoolwork.
That's valid. Okay.
Learning is for tools. And so I see this guy and I'm like, come on, man. What are you doing?
Okay. So you thought for 41 minutes, wasn't the episode...
Yeah, like about 42. Yeah.
42 minutes. So you spent most of it thinking... Well, I don't want to give spoilers before we get to that part. But
okay.
The bulk of it, he's pretty much being established as the good guy.
He's pretty much being established as like a tool of pro-education propaganda.
Right. Okay, well...
So anyway,
so he's at... No, but we can move on from there. So he's at this fundraiser, right? Meanwhile, his high school daughter, Jennifer, she ditches the fundraiser and she goes to because she recognizes
that's why she's the coolest character. She recognizes that school is for tools.
Okay.
School is for tools. School is for tools. That's why I thought she was the hero. I thought she was the hero of the whole thing for most of it.
I guess
she's the only one who's willing to stand up against these teachers.
Stand up again? Well,
yeah.
I feel like she just mostly avoids rather than... Well, anyway, so she goes to this club.
You give a teacher an apple. You walk into school one day. You've got a red, delicious, just shiny apple. You give it to the teacher, and you know what the teacher says? Oh, thanks. And you know what the teacher does at the end of the class? Gives you homework. I just gave you an apple. What, I'm supposed to give you 2 apples every day?
Do you think that it's a payment system or an exchange to stop having homework? That's why they give apples?
I think that... I think the point of it is that she is going to love the apple so much and be so enthralled with how delicious it is called a red delicious, that it won't even cross her mind to give me homework.
Okay. You said she. Is this a specific teacher?
No.
Well, like you aren't in school currently, right?
No, of course not. But there might be a high school student who looks a lot like me, wears a backwards hat, shows up to class a little late, kind of a cool guy. Maybe he's not happy with how teachers are treating their students these days. That's all.
Okay. How long ago, this student, how long ago did they start attending high school?
3 years ago. They're a junior.
Okay. And are they going back to school, or did they start out, did they take a break? The student?
I guess you could call it a break. I think that wouldn't be inaccurate. I think a break implies that it was voluntary.
Oh, so he was expelled.
Not quite expelled. More like fled to the basement and operated as sort of a Phantom of the Opera of the school.
Huh. Okay. So that...
But I don't even know this guy. I don't even know who this guy is. So we should probably just change the subject. Yeah.
So we do have some to cover here.
Yeah.
So Jeff, the main character, his high school daughter, Jennifer, ditches the fundraiser and goes to the club. And she flirts with this guy who's apparently in a gang called The 100.
Yeah. And not to be confused with the CW show called The 100.
Okay, yeah, and that obviously an issue here.
Because this is a CW show as well with The 100.
It does help with cross promotion, maybe. I don't know.
I did notice something very peculiar about her conversation with this guy in the club.
Okay.
It cuts to them talking about music, and she goes, Coachella over Afropunk? SZA, Solange, Childish Gambino? And then he says, oh, so you're one of those alternative girls. Now, in our world, SZA, Solange, Childish Gambino, these are all people who have performed at Coachella multiple times.
Okay, so it's not just dated or something.
No, these are people who have performed either with their own sets or performed with other people. I believe right before this would have been recorded would have been the Beyonce one where she brought out Solange, but she's performed on her own as well. And so this leads me to believe, Dr. Lynn, I think I've tapped into something that the episode, I believe, will be revealed later in the series, is that this is an alternate universe where Afropunk has a stricter exclusivity clause, exclusivity clause than Coachella. Coachella famous for its exclusivity clause. Okay. Really restricting artists and not letting them play for 6 months within like 1,000 miles of its location. So in this alternate twisty topsy-turvy world, Afropunk has locked down SZA, Solange, Childish Gambino. And I think when you think about like the larger implications in a superhero universe, you start to really kind of see where this series is going. Are the beer prices at Afropunk going to be more expensive? Is it going to be more expensive to buy a funnel cake at Afropunk?
Oh, so you think that the prices of concessions are maybe the biggest impact?
Maybe. Does Coachella, because they're unable to get Childish Gambino, do they pivot to more of an EDM focus? And I'm just so excited to see how this series explores these topics.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's really the focus it takes. Granted, I watched the first episode studiously. I didn't really move past it because I want to keep the focus. But my guess is that it focuses a little bit more on the sort of superhero stuff.
Oh, like who is the hero of Coachella and who is the hero of Afropunk?
Maybe. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, while she's flirting with a guy, talking about Coachella and everything, we find out throughout that whole interaction, let's see, he's in a gang called the 100, right? And meanwhile, our hero, Jeff, he finds out that she ditched the fundraiser, so he goes to the club to find her. And then he actually electrics like a shock to the bouncer when he points a gun at him.
Who was just doing his job.
Yeah. And then, the electric man...
Electric Jeff.
Everything.
Which,
Electric Jeff.
I have to say, I think Electric Jeff is a pretty good title.
So
what about Zappy Jeff?
Yeah, or like the Wizard of Lightning.
Nope. Wizard of Jeff. Or, Jeff the Wizard.
Okay. So Wizard Jeff.
Yes.
Later, you think that he's been outsmarted because on his way out, after shocking everyone, making the lights go out, he runs into the police.
Yep.
And they have electric guns.
Also known as tasers.
Okay, yeah, tasers. So, much to everyone's shock, Jeff actually likes that taser, right? So he squeezes his hands. And from what I could tell, squeezing his hands made electricity. So it made the cops fly into the air, and then he also squeezed his hands at the police car.
Yep.
So it catches on fire, electrics. And one thing
And you know what, Dr. London? It's not unlike, holding someone's hand for the first time. You squeeze that baby, you feel that electricity. You know what I'm talking about?
Wow. Have I held a hand before? Is that what you're asking?
You've never held a hand before.
I mean, I've shaken a hand in greeting.
You've never held a hand before. You've never held a hand before. Oh my gosh, Dr. London's afraid to hold a girl's hand.
I mean, if they gave consent and you signed the forms and everything.
What are you so afraid of? Are you afraid they're going to zap you?
Germs. Well, and the zap. Okay, I guess both. Now I'm afraid of the zap.
You think germs are going to zap you? Is that something I need to be concerned about?
I believe it might be a possibility.
Because I have been having I just thought it was sharp pains every 15 seconds. I didn't know what it was, but you're just saying that it's maybe part of this kind of like zappy germ situation, which is interesting.
No, so if you're having what feels like electric shocks,
all the time,
that sounds like nerve pain.
Well, I'm not nervous.
Okay, well, so you have nerves throughout your body.
No, I just said I'm not nervous at all. I'm very confident.
Okay.
I'm very confident that I keep being zapped by these germs that I just learned about 10 seconds ago.
And you're very confident.
Yes. I'm not nervous about it at all.
Well, we can go ahead and move on from there, I guess. Okay, so what we want to bear in mind with this whole police shocking situation is he was just at a fundraiser, so he's still got his tuxedo on and no mask. But there's a light on him. The car lights are on him. You can see his face very clearly, and he's in a tuxedo. And so this is an important plot twist in my mind, because when the news later reports the incident, the police on TV say, quote, "We are looking for a regular human black male who is probably hyped up on a lot of drugs." So this to me reveals just how ingenious our hero is. Rather than wear his Black Lightning suit, when the police still remember that suit from 9 years ago. So instead, Jeff is wearing his regular human black male suit.
He's really in his Wizard Jeff costume.
Yeah, his Wizard Jeff costume, which, well, the police label it as the regular human black male costume, I guess.
Right.
So it's impressive to me because it fools everyone whenever he wears that suit. So even when he shoots lightning, they still think, oh, okay, well, no, he's wearing that suit. He's obviously a regular human black male.
And he's probably hopped up on drugs. Where else? Who could get such a nice suit unless they were hopped up on drugs?
Those who work and receive a certain amount of payment for the work they do, the services rendered. A lot of times people...
Oh, they're all on drugs. People with jobs?
Yeah, that is what I'm describing.
Yeah. Do you not know this?
I don't believe that all people are on drugs.
People with jobs are on drugs. Dude.
Okay.
Are you kidding?
I was not.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so my point...
Dude, everyone at your job is on drugs, dude.
My point there was that this whole tuxedo thing, it seems similar to the Clark Kent effect, which also a DC comic. It's Superman, whenever he puts on glasses, people think he's Clark Kent.
Who is that?
Which... who are you asking about? Clark.
Well, I know Clark Kent, but who is Superman?
So Superman is the superhero who flies around. He's got super strength, speed. Okay. He's an alien.
Okay.
He's a fictional character within the DC universe.
And he's the same guy as the nerdy guy with glasses?
Yeah, the nerdy guy with glasses is his disguise.
Of course. Have you seen how thick those glasses are?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty thick, but the point there is that, well, for one thing, Superman also has X-ray vision, so the glasses wouldn't even affect him, really. He could just see through them if he needed to.
See through the glasses?
See through the prescription part.
Wait a second. I have glasses. I can see through them,
Okay,
too.
No,
Wait a second.
That's not the correlation.
I'm learning something about myself. Okay.
You're not Superman.
No, oh no. I wasn't saying that.
Okay.
But I clearly have X-ray vision.
Okay, no.
And in fact, I do want to mention, I do know that I'm not Superman, and I did, while watching this show, I feel like I did learn something about myself a little bit.
Okay.
Can I talk about that? Just not to interrupt?
Just briefly, okay.
Well, I think one of the common things is that we've seen with Black Lightning, Jeff the Wizard, is that he keeps zapping people, and it keeps causing these kind of explosions and fires. Well, who else do you know has an electrical fire 3, 4, 5 times a week? I do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like...
But it's not...
Right?
Well, that's because you...
So, here I am. I'm just laying in bed. Things are just blowing up left and right around me, and every time I'm thinking, like, what's going on? And now I'm realizing something here.
You refuse to hire an electrician, and you...
Why would I need an electrician if I've got the electricity in my veins, baby?
Well, if you... That's just not how... Like, you just didn't hire an electrician. You tried to do it yourself briefly and then gave up, left wires exposed. Like, your house is very dangerous.
It's not dangerous at all. I've got everything on 6 or 7 daisy-chained extension cords.
Yeah, that I don't think that's well. Anyway, we can move on from there. Anyway, after that whole encounter with the police, we meet his father figure in the show. Is a white tailor man named Gamby,
named Commissioner Gordon Alfred Taylor Man.
Well, I didn't see all of that in his name.
I think they said it a few times. Commissioner Gordon Alfred the Tailor.
Okay.
Man.
Well, in any case, he's
and he's kind of a superhero in his own right.
Yeah, in that he's a supportive character.
Yeah, the way he can make those suits fit on his body. You're telling me that's not a superpower?
You know, that's a good point, Cameron, that all of us, whenever we work hard and are skilled at something that helps to better someone's life, that does make each of us a superhero in our own way.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think it's true when you're making someone's body work. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay, so you mean like someone who makes someone else more attractive?
Yeah, that's a superpower.
So like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I guess just
if they make Jeff the Wizard look as good as he did, you're telling me that's not a superpower?
No, I'm not denying it. It's weird that you would restrict superpowers to this, to just make him look good. Okay. Well, anyway, so he patches up Jeff's wounds, this Gamby, Commissioner Gordon character, Alfred. And so then our lightning friend Jeff,
well, you're forgetting Jeff doesn't want to get back into the business.
Yeah.
Jeff is like, no, that's behind me. I'm done. And it's because his ex-wife doesn't want him to do it, right?
Right.
But Commissioner Gordon Alfred the Tailor, he keeps being like, no, you got to do it. We need you. The people need you. And he says, do you remember why you became Black Lightning? Because you wanted to give people hope. And I think that's really interesting, because I thought he became Black Lightning because of like aliens, or maybe he was shocked or something, or maybe he was hit by like a lightning bolt or something like that. But Commissioner Gordon Alfred the Tailor is saying that just through hope, he was able to give himself electric veins. And I have so much hope. And the leaves in my yard keep catching on fire. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, but it's the exposed wires everywhere.
Well, sure.
And also another thing to notice about the conversation was, along with the hope aspect, he became the zapping wizard man to kill a man named Tobias.
Yes.
A few scenes later, we learned that Tobias is the leader. He's the leader of this big gang called the 100 Gang. And his thing seems to be, well, he feeds people into his piranha tank. He got mad at someone and threw him in the piranha tank.
Sure did.
Next, we see the same guy who was causing trouble at the club. He shows up to the school where the principal works and everything, where Mr. Lightning is. So Jeff, he's cleverly disguised once again as a regular human black male.
Well, and he's the guy is hassling Jeff's daughter / the girl this man was talking to at the club. It should be mentioned. He's hassling both the daughters.
Oh, yeah, well, because the one daughter comes up to defend and
Coachella, or to defend Afropunk. The guy is like, no, Coachella's better.
I think it might have been more the whole...
And the daughters are like, no, Afropunk, SZA, Solange, Childish Gambino. I think maybe kind of in that community, you know, Coachella's kind of a big deal, so it's a little subversive to not kind of be on the Coachella train, you know?
I feel like I didn't quite get that from that scene, but in any case, it
was all over it.
So
I think it even said, but what about Radiohead's 2012 set? I guarantee you he said that.
Yeah, maybe I'm just not.
I know he did.
In any case, so our electrified Jeff, he used the power of words to keep this guy from doing a school shooting. He's about to pull out a gun. He stops him. And maybe, I feel like I remember it differently, but maybe it was to stop him from talking about Coachella or whatever. So Jeff, in his full 3-piece regular human black male suit, goes to the wannabe school shooter's gangmaster named Lala. So things get tense, lights start to flicker suspiciously again. It's that same whole thing where you're thinking, is this guy going to bust out some lightning?
Well, it's also important to mention that he knew Lala.
Yes.
Lala seemed to be a student from his school.
Yes, this is also part of it. That everyone sort of has a history there. Everyone kind of knows each other. And so,
yes.
And he does mention in that conversation, because of that relationship, he didn't call the cops about all of it.
And he said, I have an unspoken, like an unwritten rule with all the gangs to not mess with Garfield High. We don't need people coming around insisting that Coachella is the superior music festival. And we don't need to bring that kind of tension and aggressiveness to the school.
And one thing for the listeners, Garfield High is not a reference to the cat Garfield smoking.
No, it
weed.
is.
No, it's the high school. That's what that is.
Well, but what is the high school named after?
I think it was someone named Garfield, like some person.
You mean President Garfield?
Possibly. I didn't.
Is President Garfield relevant to 2019?
Is Garfield the cat relevant to 2019?
Yes. He hates Mondays. Everyone hates Mondays. I can't tell you a thing about President Garfield.
Okay. Well, that might be valid then.
Odie, Nermal, Lasagna, John, John's veterinary girlfriend / crush, kind of just like girl he's courting on and off throughout the series. President Garfield, what do I know? He was president and he's dead. Okay.
Yeah, whereas Garfield, we do not know about any death, so presumably still living
and relevant.
All right. Well, so a little later, that same wannabe school shooter from before, same guy who was at the club, that guy comes back and just walks into a classroom and kidnaps both of Jeff's daughters and takes them to a motel. And one thing I thought was very important to note is that the medical student daughter, Anissa, she was apparently there and she had time to teach at a high school 3 times a week while she is in medical school.
That's true.
That to me was very interesting.
Because you're not able to work as hard or intelligently as she is.
Well, I think in general, medical school is such an occupying thing that...
For struggling students, sure, yeah.
Well, for most students, I think they'll put the time in to study and everything. Whenever they have any time off, they're not going to be teaching out of school. They're going to be, especially the high school level, they're generally going to be teaching, or they'll be studying instead.
Yeah, I mean, for someone like you, I think that would definitely be true. I think for anyone, I would say for anyone on let's say the lower 20% of people who go to medical school, yes, you're going to have to study, you're going to have to read, you're going to have to, pay attention. But for the upper 80%, come on, you just figure it out. That's all she does. She just shows up for a test. Well, she's ready, acing her way through school. And she teaches.
Okay.
Which is normal.
So this is...
And so I do want to say, if anyone out there is listening right now and you're in medical school and you might be interested in checking out our medical podcast, the Jock Doc Podcast, let me just say, if you study at all, we don't want you.
No, okay.
You're not the kind of medical student that we want. We need people who it comes naturally to.
The podcast is meant to actually instruct anyone at any level. So whether you are already in med school or a doctor or... you're correct. Literally every single person should be listening to our show except for med students who have to study. It's designed to be on everyone, but in any case, we can move on from there. So, this is the point in the show that we've all been waiting for. So, Jeff, he changes out of his regular human black male 3-piece suit and puts on his
wizard robe,
his lightning suit, and he busts up everyone at the motel in order to reach the school shooting kidnapper. And then he electrocutes that kidnapper for a very, very long time. And it's worth noting that school shooter guy, he is a teenager. So, and this is where I kind of had a problem. So he goes in there and he electrocutes that teenager in the heart, or at the heart. And he holds him up with the electrocution.
Lifts him up off the ground, off the ledge.
So the heart has a natural pacemaker that uses electricity, and you're actually not supposed to electrocute it a bunch. That can be bad for it. In fact, whenever they...
Well, he only did it once. You're saying a bunch. He just did it the one time.
But it was prolonged is the thing there.
Yeah, it was for like 2 minutes, and it was so strong he was lifting him off the ground. But I mean, I don't think that's that far off from the electrical fires I have to deal with at my own house.
I think it is a little bit different because...
No, they zap me so much it makes me fly in the air.
Really?
Yeah.
You should probably hire an electrician.
I've got this stuff flowing through my veins now. I know this. This show revealed this to me. Why would I call an electrician? That'd be like calling someone to check out my blood when I already know my own blood more than anyone else.
How do you know your own blood? You can't even see it.
Yeah, it's in my body every single day.
And you think you know it better because it lives inside of you.
Because I've spent way more time with it.
Okay. Well, anyway, so when you're struck by lightning, your bones, they basically act as the conductors of that electricity. So the consequence of this is that the bones heat up and burn the muscles surrounding them, and that can result in a number of pathological changes. So this school shooter kidnapper guy is being roasted alive as he's held over his car by the lightning. And then Black Lightning compliments the car and slams that teenage guy into it. It just, to me, it seems pretty excessive whenever he could have just knocked him out or something, you know?
But he's not the knockout guy. He's Black Lightning.
Right. So,
if he's not utilizing lightning, then he's not utilizing who he is. And this is kind of a show all about, standing for who you are.
Okay.
He's an electric wizard man.
So as that ordeal ends, we find that Lala, the gang boss from earlier, who they had some arrangement with the school, whatever, he had been brought in to see that guy Tobias, and Tobias once again comes in strong with another nautically themed approach. Instead of the piranhas, this time he just shot Lala with a harpoon, because that henchman Lala had caused Black Lightning to show himself once again, to put on the suit. And lastly, this episode ends with Jeff's medical school daughter doing the squeezing hands thing like her dad, except this one breaks the sink. So she has powers at the end.
So she's turning into the Thing, right?
The Thing
from like the Fantastic Four.
Well, that's Marvel, so we don't talk about that on this show.
Oh, yeah.
We've been
So she's turning into...
We've been told that if we ever mention that, any character from Marvel, that we will be punished. And I don't know how, because those guys are supposed to be in Arkham, but I think they have a big reach or something. I don't know.
Like a big arm? Like their wingspan's
honestly,
huge?
I don't know. They were...
Hey, well, maybe I can use my electrical firepower to kind of zap them through the internet. Does Arkham have the internet?
I don't want to pick a fight with them. I don't know, but their technology might be more advanced.
Who's the primary ISP in Arkham? Is it Spectrum?
This is one of those things that didn't come up whenever they asked us to host.
Okay, we need to ask them. Oh, hey, I know you guys are in Arkham. Are you on Verizon Fios or Google Fiber? And then when we figure that out, then I can just zap the phone lines. Yeah, well, in any case, now is a time whenever we're supposed to say our criticisms, what we liked, what we hated. So, on my part, one thing I loved about Black Lightning was that we're all so intimately familiar with this iconic character from pop culture, Black Lightning. They were able to just skip over Black Lightning's entire origin story and instead focus on his coming out of retirement. That part to me was, it's just like whenever that movie Superman Returns came out, everyone already knew who he was, so it wasn't a problem. And just like that, Black Lightning, everyone's like, oh yeah, the Lightning guy, we know him. It's like all those Spider-Man movies who had to redo the origin story. Right, or every time there's a Batman, we have to see his parents die. And you don't... Anyway, so this one, they know that we don't need any of that, because we all know Black Lightning. I really liked the catering at the high school ceremony. Okay, I didn't notice it as much. just looked like it would probably have good catering. Yeah, I didn't really notice it either, but just the way they were dressed, and it looked like everyone was full.
Okay.
So it kind of just led me to believe that probably had a good dinner.
Okay. And I think I said it before.
I also like when he came back from the school event, every light was on in his house, which I believe is the source of his power. Because similarly, I keep electricity pumping in my house 24 hours a day, as much as I possibly can.
It seems like that would be a waste of electricity.
Is having a superpower a waste? I don't think so.
I don't know that that's the source of his power, but then again, we've only...
Flowing through his veins and my veins, baby.
Right, so anyway, I'm actually guessing that the superpower must be genetic because the daughter had it. Maybe there's something there. We'd have to watch, I guess, more episodes. I guess that could be a drawback of skipping the entire origin story, is that we don't know it. For me, that might be... I guess that could be a criticism in a way.
You don't know it.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. The least believable part of the show to me was once again that the medical student would have the time to teach 3 times a week at a local high school. Do you have any other criticisms, Cameron?
Just that I thought the daughters were just too cool.
Okay, and that's not really believable.
Who's that cool? Yeah,
they seem very popular.
Who is that cool? Especially the kids of the principal? Nah.
Oh, that it's valid, yeah.
They'd be nerds. They'd be huge nerds. And also his outfit was very bright. Very, very shiny.
Yeah, like clean and pressed.
Which seems... No, I mean the lightning bolts on his physical suit once he's transformed into his suit seem to be lit up with really bright LEDs.
Yeah.
Which I could see being problematic in terms of fighting crime while also evading the police. Right. Like at the very, very end, the police are all around and talking and investigating the crime scene, and then it cuts to him standing on top of a building.
Right.
But he's literally, he's glowing.
But he's next to a neon sign,
because his suit is so...
That's how he blends in? He has to hang around neon signs?
So if there was a crime going on without some sort of neon, like, Budweiser sign around, he'd be like, well, I can't.
Well, and maybe...
I'd love to help out here, but what am I going to do?
Maybe that's why he retired.
Because people were getting rid of neon signs.
I mean, that age was, I guess 9 years ago is whenever people stopped being so into neon signs culturally. Yeah,
and we just switched more to just kind of digital screens, which a lot of times aren't going to be as bright.
Yeah, and so that's a cultural thing that the show kind of brings to light.
Yeah.
And that's something that we can learn from, in a way. All right, well, I think to sum up, bring back electrical signs.
Bring back neon signs, you
mean?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Bring back neon signs.
So that we can have our superheroes again.
Coachella or Afropunk, I think they're both reasonable music festivals, and I don't think there's any reason to have any kind of violence over them. You can go to both, if.
Okay.
They're not in the same area, but, if you traveled, you could do it.
Okay.
And, always trust your tailor.
Right, okay, because they're real heroes.
It seems like it, yeah.
Well,
because he makes that body work, Dr. London.
Well, I think that's all for us here at the Supersons podcast. We are, of course, only covering for the usual hosts who they're apparently locked up in Arkham or something. Anyway, thank you to those hosts for asking us to cover for them. Thank you, Cameron, as always, for helping the podcast to remain relatable.
Absolutely.
Thank you to Digital in the House.
School is for tools.
I am drlennonsmith.com. And if you want to hear more from us, we can be found at the Jock Doc Podcast. Links to major podcast platforms can be found via our handy website, jockdocpodcast.com. We're on social media as Jock Doc Podcast, and we should be pretty easy to find. On the Jock Doc Podcast, we discuss fitness and health, and we explain medical topics with some interesting guests. Anyway, thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Zap, 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 zap.